Xander Schauffele winning the 106th PGA Championship, breaking through in a major way indeed. There is the final leaderboard. Xander Schauffele finishing on 21 under. When it was all said and done, it was a one-shot victory over Bryson DeChambeau because Xander birdied that 18th hole. Victor Hovland was right there too. It's just he bogeyed that last hole, but he bogeyed that last hole because by then the story had been written. It didn't cost him his place on the leaderboard either. Thomas Dietrich, Colin Morikawa, both finishing in a tie for fourth. Colin Morikawa just didn't have what he needed on that final day. The putter kind of went cold on him, and it was a great PGA Championship indeed. Because we haven't been with you guys since before the start of tournament play, today, this is our first chance to be back with you. We're going to review what happened from that point to where we are today, and a lot happened. There is no doubt about that. Plus, a lot happened in the world of golf. We're watching history with what Nelly Korda is doing. We're going to hear from Nelly coming up on the program today, too. I can't wait to talk about it because, one, I love when history happens right before our eyes. There's times when you know it, and there's other times when you don't know it. You look back on it and you realize what took place. In the case of what Nelly Korda is doing, we're all fully aware, I think, of the significance of what she is doing. But my question there is, what could this mean to the LPGA? What could this mean to women's golf? What could this mean to women's sport? And are we in a year or an era, if you please, when women's sport is being raised to another level of consciousness? I mean, I did hear the cries from many saying, yeah, it's amazing what Nelly is doing. We would have liked to have seen it, which raises the question of, in the world of sports today, I mean, and ESPN's been proving this since, 1979, that sports is 24 hours a day. So is there a way that how we dish out our sports can be separated in such a way that we have better chance of seeing it? I mean, I'm up this week. You can tell I'm at Studio 2, our home away from home, because I'm hosting Golf Central. And this week we are featuring the Division I NCAA Women's Golf Championships. So last night was the individual, and it was amazing that we now have a new individual champion, NCAA champion. It's Cernosik is the victor. The reason I was struggling with the name is she's coming in from France. It's a really cool story. She came in from South France with the Aggies, and took her some time to adjust. Took her some time to get used to, I would say, team culture, but it probably was more like American culture. She had not won amongst the collegiate ranks. Was playing well, don't get me wrong, but she had not won, and she breaks through as now the NCAA champion. Can you imagine that? So that was the drama that played out last night. We had the coverage live. Tonight, the quarterfinals and semifinals kick off in our coverage. And then Golf Central is on from 10 to 11, which for a guy that gets up at 3 a.m. to do this show is a late gig for me. I know a lot of people out there rolling their eyes going, please, you're hosting Golf Central. Give me a break. And I get that, and I understand. I'm still full of gratitude of what we're doing, but it was very cool indeed. So getting back to all the things that took place since the last time that we were together. Xander Schauffele finally breaks through. He was the only one of the top 5 of the official world golf rankings that had not yet won a major. He had knocked on the door of majors multiple times. He had 2 third-place finishes. He had 2 second-place finishes. Do you know how many finishes in second place without a win is the all-time record? It's only 5. He was starting to march closer to that. It's Colin Montgomery with that mark. So Xander Schauffele, you can see it right here, best performances in major championships. And those 2 second-place finishes that I was just referencing go back to the 2018 Open and the 2019 Masters. Even the third-place finishes go back to 19 and 21. So there's some space there. If you want to go deeper, look at the 5th-place finishes, tied for 5th and 5th, 17 and 20. So you had to go all the way down to an 8th place finish at the 2024 Masters before you would see even a top 10 from Xander Schauffele. Not to downplay the significance of a top 10, but when you look at the traffic in front of it, you start to scratch your head and go, So the book from the critics on Xander Schauffele was great player, mad talent, can he close? And you look at that graphic and you start to go, well, you can kind of see a pattern here where he isn't, where he's not ascending on that final day. And tell me if you didn't think when he bogeyed 10 on Sunday, did you not sit back and go, uh-oh, is this where it starts to stall out? The week before, as you know, he was beat by Rory McIlroy, and the popular interpretation is that he was run over by Rory McIlroy. As they say, the cliche, ran into a buzzsaw. And there's merit to that. Don't get me wrong. Rory played great. But Xander also stalled out. So it was a combination that led to the ultimate victory, such as that tournament concluded. So in this case, we didn't see that from this Xander Schauffele. He didn't stall out. He continued to ascend, birdieing both 11 and 12. And if we go to the back of the book, read it backwards, the drive he hit on 18, that settled right above, it was on the ledge of that bunker. And even the experts, the analysts on CBS, were suggesting that he was probably going to have to hit a pretty high lofted club here, a shorter club, and then take his chances from there. Well, he didn't do that. He hit a beautiful second shot. He was 247 yards away and left himself 35 from the pin. And from there, he hit a chip, which he spoke about to the media afterwards, which it was more like a pitch that he drove into the hill with some spin that he said he had to hit harder because he knew it was going to come in with spin and it needed to rise up that final ledge, leaving him 6 feet. This from the PGA Championship's X account as the final moments played out in Xander Schauffele's PGA Championship.
You've practiced it as a kid thousands and thousands of times, telling yourself it was for this very occasion, to win it all.
Xander with victory at Valhalla.
That's absolutely awesome. I love the simplicity of the way that Jim Nantz called that too. Xander with victory at Valhalla. So after he was done, Xander spoke to the media, and the first question that you have to ask in a moment like this is, how are you feeling?
It feels amazing. Yeah, just a wide range of emotions for me. Very satisfying win, and I really can't wait to get back and celebrate with my team. I was pretty nervous. I walked up, I saw a little left to right. I kept reading it. I kept kind of panning. It started to look right to left to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not what I want for a winning putt. Fortunately, it was uphill. It was, 6 feet-ish. I ended up playing it straight. It did go left, caught the left side. Just so much relief. When it lipped in, I don't even really remember it lipping in. I just heard everyone roaring, and I just looked up to the sky in relief. I was actually able to call him when I was standing waiting to walk onto the 18th green, and he was a mess. He was crying on the phone, and it made me pretty emotional. I told him I had to hang up because I had to walk down. I couldn't show up looking like the way I was, but they're not here this week, but they know how important they are to me, and my dad's at that stage in his life. I really want him to be happy, and I know this is going to bring him a ton of joy where he's at in Hawaii right now.
That was him talking to his dad, Stefan, before he was walking onto the 18th green, and he was talking about the fact that his dad was so emotional that he had to get off the phone with him because he was about to address the world and he didn't want to be too emotional himself at that moment in time. Again, watch these videos. It's absolutely fantastic, really. This is, again, from the PGA Championship, credit from their social media account. There's where it drops. And as you just heard him say, and that's why I love these interviews, because they do become the soundtrack of history. When he said he didn't even see it drop, but he knew it from the crowd, and he just reached up to the sky. That Wanamaker trophy is about 34 pounds. And as we've learned over the years, the top does come off. It does fall off. Great photo. Again, that's courtesy of the PGA of America. Xander Schauffele with his first major championship. It brings him to 8 wins on the PGA Tour now. Remember, he is the 2020 Olympic gold medalist. He's represented the United States multiple times, and he moves up to number 2 in the official world golf rankings. I'm going to get back into all the things that Xander did in a second, but I want to take the time to talk about Bryson for a second, because Bryson DeChambeau and what we saw from Bryson was also, I would say, unique. And so it causes me the question of saying, this Bryson, is it a new Bryson? Is it a Bryson that we know better now? Is it a Bryson that's a heck of a lot easier to be a fan of than it was before? Or have you always been a great fan of Bryson DeChambeau? He's already a major champion. Before he left for the LIV Tour, he won 8 times on the PGA Tour. Same number of wins now as Xander has. He's won a couple of times on LIV. He's 35th in the official world golf rankings. I think most people would say, with the way that he's playing, he should be much higher than that, but that's still the details they have to figure out. And he, too, has represented the United States multiple times in Ryder Cups and in President's Cups. Maybe you guys saw the video of Bryson, which I'm sure has earned him a ton of fans. But he was tossing a golf ball to a little kid, and a man snatched the ball out of the air. Bryson called the man back over and made him give the ball back to the kid. It was actually very, very cool to see indeed. So Bryson threw everything he could at Xander Schauffele, and it made it an absolutely entertaining PGA Championship because of that. Now, remember, it started with Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele, but it ended with Bryson and Victor and Xander going at it. It was so cool. Bryson sent out this social media post. What a week. Congratulations to Xander. So afterwards, when Bryson sat down with the media, he gave his initial reaction to all things that had just taken place.
First emotions, proud of Xander for finally getting the job done. I mean, he's an amazing golfer and well-deserved major champion now. He's played well for a long, long time. I've played against him as a junior, and it's cool to see him. Not only he's just a great human being, but an unbelievable golfer, and it shows this week, and super happy for him. On my side of the coin, disappointing, but whatever. I played well. Didn't strike at my best all week. Felt like I had my B game pretty much. My putting was A+, my wedging was A+. Short game was A+, driving was like B. And, shot 20 under par in a major championship. Proud of myself for the way I handled adversity. Definitely disappointing, but one that gives me a lot of momentum for the rest of the majors. And, I said today it was closing time, but it'll be closing time, hopefully over the next couple majors. I got to learn from this and learn a lot about, I've learned a lot about myself over the past year, and being able to perform at Augusta and being able to perform today, shooting 7 under. And I know I'm just rambling. It's just I've got a lot of thoughts in my head going right now.
All right, so you have to wonder when Xander says that he won with his B game. I mean, there was a lot of content there to what he said, and the interview went obviously much longer than that with the media. But when he says that he won with his B game, back in the day when Tiger said that, when Tiger was just starting out, he was pretty heavily criticized by other touring pros because they took offense to the fact that you win, but you did it with your B game. And in this case, Bryson DeChambeau came a stroke away from a playoff, and he did it with what he's calling his B game. Now, we went into detail there and said his B game was really how he felt he was driving the golf ball, which to me takes a lot of the sting out of the comment. But I'm curious about what the reaction is from people. I've always had a little bit of a different spin on it than most that seem to get upset with, because maybe you look at it as a breach in propriety, that maybe it doesn't reflect humility in the moment. Okay. But there's also the aspect of it where you're hearing directly from an athlete what their own self-assessment is. And at that point, do we really need platitudes? Do we really need a person to make sure that they're saying the politically correct thing instead of telling us, like he did, you know, I was A+ in these other aspects of my game, but I didn't think that I had all that I needed with the driver, which is clearly a formidable weapon for Bryson DeChambeau. So we called it his B game. From that standpoint, and then he said he learned a lot, and he's going to learn from this moment. I don't know. I feel like, for me personally, it's easier, I think, to understand Bryson, because if you look at the arc of Bryson DeChambeau and how we kind of got to know him, and I think when he burst onto the scene on the PGA Tour and everyone was calling him the scientist, I think my interpretation, I've never heard him say this is my interpretation, one guy's opinion, but I think he was playing a role somewhat in terms of his public persona, in terms of trying to be the guy that everybody thought that he was, told him that he was, or maybe even the message that he was sending as to who he was. This kind of, don't try to understand what I'm saying. It's on a different plane. I don't think like everybody else. It's very scientific, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought he was a little bit trying to play the role of the professor. And then he got himself in some trouble with, yelling at a cameraman that caught him being aggrieved, et cetera, et cetera. The idea of, I made it to the PGA Tour, so that immediately makes me the most popular kid in school. And he started to find out that as an athlete, people define who they think are good guys and who they think are bad guys. And then he had the run-in with Brooks Koepka, and Brooks reacted like the high school bully. And all of a sudden, it was a pile-on. And I think to a certain extent, Bryson, in my view, was spinning at that point, trying to figure out, what is my public persona here? I thought it's drive for show. I thought that's what everybody was really into. The videos of him trying to get faster and all the rest. So I'm curious if you guys agree. I definitely have seen a change in maturity in Bryson DeChambeau. He mentioned a year in that soundbite. Maybe it has been over the course of the last year. At the very least, it seems to be he's more in tune, a better self-awareness. The videos that he's doing on YouTube, I think, are connecting with people very well. And I think they're also showing a personality that probably people didn't realize. Again, partly of his own making and partly of the creation of that was swirled around him, that Bryson is a good guy. He's not the person that we may have thought that he was, or we, through a cascading circumstances, were led to believe that he was. So I think all of that contributed to making it an incredibly entertaining PGA Championship. And I can't help but have my mind go forward immediately to Pinehurst #2 for the U.S. Open, and of course Royal Troon for the Open, with what we're seeing and all the currents that are going on in the game right now. But first of all, let's jump back before that to Xander Schauffele and take a little bit of a deeper dive into what Xander did and how Xander accomplished what he did at this PGA Championship. First of all, some of his stats for the PGA Championship. I don't think it's going to surprise you that he finished atop in these categories, but I do think it is of particular note that strokes gained total plus 18.16. Let that settle in for a second. Greens in regulation, 83%. Look, I get it. The golf course was soft. They were firing darts. I understand that. But everybody had the same opportunity, and look what Xander did, 83%. He was second in strokes gained tee to green, plus 13.46. Second in strokes gained approach, almost 8 strokes. 3rd in strokes gained off the tee, 13th in strokes gained putting. As for his stats with major championships, this was his 28th start, and he breaks through. Showed this to you earlier because I think it deserves to be brought back up again for Xander's best results in majors, where at the top you see 2024 PGA Championship. After that, all those other finishes, as I mentioned earlier, were getting a little bit long in the tooth before he breaks through now. So what happens when a player breaks through at this level? How does it change their mentality? It's no more a question of if. And then finally, a look at Xander's 2024 results. This is obviously in descending order from the PGA Championship, that second at Wells Fargo where he lost to Rory McIlroy's brilliant performance. An 8th at the Masters, of note. Tied for 2nd at the Players. Tied for 4th at the Genesis. So he has the abilities, tied for 3rd at the American Express, he has the abilities to show up on tough golf courses against stacked fields, as he emphatically proved. Now that he's an actual winner of a major championship, you can look at it as being proven. Look at this. I love this video. Saw this in the overnight hours we were getting ready. His team drinking from the Wanamaker Trophy. And what I loved about that is he's obviously back with his family. He's still got the same shirt on that he had on in the competition. And why not? Why not enjoy it? Austin was still wearing his caddy bib. It's just fantastic. So it's fun to celebrate all of that.